time matchup here. Weather, while cold, not quite as cold as we all expected it to be. Early on in the week, there was forecasts of -1, high and low. Right now it's about, 20, I think wind chill of 10. But really, I mean, we're out here. I know we're bundled up, but it doesn't feel too bad. About the same as last week.
I think we successfully psyched our brains out this week because it's 20 degrees warmer than we were expecting. So even though it is 20 degrees, it feels kind of nice out here. I don't mind it.
There's still steps guys have to take to stay warm, but by and large, with the same steps they took a week ago, so no new information there. The one thing that is new, we thought we'd be talking about preparing for a super cold game, maybe Mahomes putting gloves back on his hands, something he hadn't done. At the same temperature, maybe that's not necessary. But for me, it's this field behind us, guys. And this is the new story. They resodded portions of this field. It is a grass field that's different. So from a football standpoint, with what they're talking about in that locker room, this is very typical. In the NFL, you have a soccer bottom, which is like a molded cleat, and a lot of guys, different manufacturers, a little different look there. On a surface like this, especially when it's new, it's a matter, and Belichick hammers this point, of packing everything you got. Pack 4 or 5 different styles, get out on this thing early, maybe even a pregame warm-up you'll run through with a molded, potentially. And if the molded don't work, you put in the screw-ins. In the screw-in cleat, you have an option of a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch, some of you 3/4, which are like shark's teeth. So, it's got to be bad to go wear that one. But the real idea here is that's actually something that's tangible and matters. And you see this a lot with a young player. You want to get in his ear, or a guy that has inexperience in the playoffs or maybe late season games, and you'll watch him in a first quarter route, or he'll run out and get to the top of his stem and he'll slip and fall down, or a guy coming out of his stance as a defensive end and he slips, and it's really a matter of equipment. You spent all week studying playbook and the game plan and all that kind of stuff. Put the right shoes on. So it actually is a very big deal. Keep an eye on that as you're watching at home.
And we just saw Tom Brady out here a couple minutes ago. We saw J.C. Jackson, several other members of the Patriots and the Patriots coaching staff just really out here trying to kind of get a lay of the land before this game.
Yeah, something interesting was that Bill Belichick's son, who's now on the coaching staff, was out here. But actually, Danny Etling, the Patriots practice squad quarterback, and they definitely took a second to check out the end zone there, see what the field was looking like.
Quality control type stuff.
Yeah, I think that they're definitely paying pretty close attention to that. These two teams did face off in Week 6. Patriots beat the Chiefs 43-40. Chiefs now favored by 3 points in this game, which is pretty appropriate, I would say.
Right.
But there's a lot to glean from Week 6, even though all the guys aren't still around from that game. But one of the biggest things to me was just all the big plays that the Patriots allowed. And it's almost amazing, given all those big plays that they allowed. A 75-yarder to Tyreek Hill, 98-yard kick return, 67-yard catch and run by Kareem Hunt. The Patriots actually still came away with a win. They were almost lucky to do that, given all the big plays they let up.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Doug, and I think it's probably something that doesn't just fit in that game. It was emblematic of a lot of issues the Patriots had as they sort of fixed this thing going through later in the year. And it was eliminating sort of the what are you doing kind of spot, because they were very dominant in the move it from 20 to 20 kind of world. They made them go the long, hard way. They were really efficient in moving the ball on them. But, yeah, you look at like 3 hiccups. It's like, wow, this game ends up looking much closer. And it's not – and again, this isn't to discredit the Chiefs. They're incredibly talented. They're a very talented group. But they were giveaways in a sense. When you get like basically a busted coverage on the Hill play in particular, you have an uncovered guy that's the fastest guy in the NFL running straight up the seam, running a post to a safety. No safety in the league wants to see that. It's not a matter of Deron Harmon or playing it better next time. It's like you can't let that fast guy do that. So I think there certainly is some learning stuff from there. It's like this is a home run hitting team. There can't be home runs. They're still going to be very good in sort of the trench fight kind of stuff. But you got to make sure down after down that's the case.
I honestly think this has to be kind of a confidence booster for the Patriots. Going back and watching that film this week, they had to say, look, if we take out some of these big plays, we win this game relatively easily. Because if you go back and watch that second half of that Week 6 game when the Chiefs scored 31 points after being held to 9 in the first half, one of those was on a 75-yard touchdown. One of those touchdowns was a 67-yarder. One of the other touchdowns came after that 97-yard kick return. The other touchdown came after Tom Brady fumbled deep in his own territory. They really only had one prolonged kind of grinded-out drive in that second half, and that resulted in a field goal. So really, you just look at this, you say, eliminate some of these big plays. Obviously, easier said than done against a guy like Tyreek Hill, against a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, but that has to be kind of their number one priority going into this game.
Zack, you wrote about this week, that the Patriots were switching up their coverages against Patrick Mahomes. Patriots are kind of known for doing that, but that's a good way to attack a young quarterback in this game.
Yeah, you saw kind of the amoeba defense that we talked about a lot in the second half of the season. Didn't really kind of be kind of premier until that Week 13 game against the Minnesota Vikings, but they actually used a lot of similar concepts in this game against the Chiefs, where they would kind of have 7 or 8 guys up at that line. Some of them would blitz, some of them would drop off. Dante Hightower got an interception off one of those things, kind of feigned a blitz, stayed there for a second, backed up, Patrick Mahomes ended up throwing it right to him, and that's what you have to do with a young quarterback, because Patrick Mahomes is freakishly talented, and he obviously had a phenomenal season. He's probably the MVP of the NFL this year, but he's still young. He's still relatively inexperienced, especially going up against a coach like Bill Belichick, who knows kind of every trick in the book. So I think you're going to see some more of that kind of thing here today, because they were able to do that a lot in the first half, and in the second half, they kind of backed off of it a little bit. Those 2 long touchdowns both came against some pretty simple kind of zones. So I think you're going to see a lot more kind of creative pass rushes, creative coverage schemes. It's going to be a big Brian Flores game today.
So one of the things that I really tried to hammer on this week, and I think this is something that Coach Belichick is really big on, understanding when you get this late in the stage, and he's coached this late in the stage so many different times, invariably it doesn't come down to coming up with some new coverage, guys. There's not something that Patrick hasn't seen. It's the combination of things. It's the variety of things down to down. It's disguising and falling into something. But what you fall into isn't going to be something he hasn't seen. The amoeba thing, it's a little indifferent play to play, and that's a good way to mix it up. That'll not tell you exactly what's going on with the front and keep it confusing, but invariably you're going to fall into, there's 6 or 7 coverages that you can potentially do anyway. You can do some goofy stuff within them, but Patrick's going to not have seen them. Now, his rep count on them isn't high. He hasn't played 15 or 20 years in the league. That's obvious. So I think the big issue is that you're different. If not down to down, at least series to series. In the second half of this, and Coach was always big on this, you don't come into a game plan like this with a really, really good offense, and you don't have some secret way of beating them. And he'll acknowledge as much. He's like, we're not stopping them. What we need to do is slow them and control them and not have freebies. And part of that is not honing in necessarily on hey, we're going to win because we're going to put this guy on that guy. We're going to put JC on Hill this time, or we're going to put Gilmore on Hill more this time, or hey, we're going to use Kelsey this way and we didn't the last time, and that's what's going to do it. He's bigger on latching onto a concept, a theme, something that if it's cover 2, if it's cover 3, if it's cover 4, it doesn't matter what the coverage is. Make sure you do this theme within that play, trying something that sort of translates across the board. And for me, that's physical play. And I think when you go back and look at a lot of the mistakes that they made, there's an absence of physical play. You can even look back at the Colts game a week ago. It's a really nice film if you're giving it back to the players and saying, hey, what the Indianapolis Colts did in the first half, you can't do that. And it marries up with some of the plays in the Week 6 game as well. And in part, all these plays where you see them aligning a bunch, 3 receivers together, and Kelsey just walks off the line. Hill just walks off the line. No one touches them. And I know a lot of people out there in the NFL are a little bit scared of the Chuck rule and the illegal contact and all that kind of stuff, but you can't be. It's playoffs. There's no more tomorrow. If you lose today, you go home. So you need to challenge that 5-yard area. I think finding more physical play in that area, and usually, guys, not from the one who has to cover him. That's the big thing. If you're really hard jamming and you still got that guy man-to-man, it's a different story. If you're hard jamming him, you have a safety over the top, you can do it. Or if you're a linebacker or a guy like me or a defensive end, beat him up. Beat him up because you're handing him over to another coverage. We've seen that. Hightower's interception in the game in Week 6 was that. He jammed him first, was a secondary rusher, ended up being the one to pressure the rush. This is a game to really sort of play selflessly, basically.
Yeah, and that's a good segue into the next thing about Patrick Mahomes. Patriots had a lot of pressure against Phillip Rivers last week, but Phillip Rivers definitely a statuesque quarterback. Some of Patrick Mahomes' best plays actually comes when he rolls out of the pocket. He's not, Michael Vick out there, but he's definitely a mobile quarterback. And Patriots fans, I don't want you to freak out if the Patriots aren't getting a lot of pass rush against Patrick Mahomes, because this really is a game where it's so important to contain him in that pocket and make sure that he doesn't get out of there. So he's making the left-handed throws and the no-look passes and all those big plays that he's kind of had this season. So I wouldn't expect this to be a big pass rush game for, Trey Flowers or John Simon or Dietrich Wise, the guys that we usually talk about. I think that their job is just to play smart against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, preventing those kind of extended plays are probably even more important than actually getting pressure, getting sacks in this game. Because when you do let Patrick Mahomes extend plays like that, it makes life infinitely more difficult for the guys in the back end that are trying to run around covering Tyreek Hill, covering Travis Kelce, covering Sammy Watkins, whoever it may be downfield. It's a lot easier to cover those guys for 3-4 seconds than it is to cover them for 7 or 8.
I don't often frame it this way, but because Mahomes is so unique, I think this is a pretty important thing. He's actually been pretty good statistically against the blitz. It's always good to mention that if you want to bring more pressure, because usually, and even in sort of a timing system like this, Andy Reid's is really sort of set up so that he can see the picture, so that he can make a quick decision, get it to the vacancy. If you don't touch Kelce, you don't touch Hill, he's going to turn to throw to them. But in situations like this is one of the unique quarterbacks where I think you want to actually keep him in the middle of a play. Not on the front end. forcing the ball out too quick can be bad for you, but extending the plays, as Zack here is talking about, is bad for you as well. It's actually good if you're getting him to about the 3 or 4 second mark. It's bad if he's immediately releasing it. That means no one jammed anyone, and it's even worse if he's out there at 6 and 7 seconds, and then you're forcing those backing guys to chase the guy that runs 4-2. So it's really contain him, as you guys are sort of hitting on here, but that's the time and moment you want him. If the ball's coming out of his hands quickly, I can guarantee you no one got touched because there was no disruption. But the thing with disruption is if those guys are going to disrupt, the pocket has to hold him, because if they disrupt and he runs around the back and ends up making an 8-second play, they had some killers throughout the year. The Raiders game, there's a bunch of times where, Zoe, what's up? Hi, how was life? Hey, what's up, bud? How we doing?
You guys on TV?
Call a game, TV, yeah, TV show.
Live?
Yeah,
live TV, like back in Massachusetts?
Back in the day, buddy.
What's up, NESN?
How you feeling?
Good.
Let's do it. All right. What's up, Doug?
All right, so next thing, let's go back to that Week 6 game. A little distracted by Zoe, but we're going to power through this. We're professionals here.
Pros.
Guys who didn't play that game, who are going to be playing this game.
Yeah.
Guys who did play in that game, who aren't going to be playing this game. Biggest one might be Kareem Hunt, Chiefs running back. Obviously not going to play. He was released. Damian Williams is in there at running back. Maybe the next biggest one is Patriots cornerback J.C. Jackson.
Yeah.
He was a healthy scratch in Week 6, and he's really emerged as the Patriots' number 2 cornerback. Statistically speaking, he's been the best cornerback in the NFL this year. He's allowed a 42 passer rating, no touchdowns allowed. Longest pass he's allowed is 24 yards. He's only allowed 2 catches on deep routes all year. So that's a guy who you might talk about, sticking on Tyreek Hill out there. Some other guys, Daniel Sorensen wasn't playing in Week 6 for the Chiefs. They had Ron Parker in there. John Simon, Patriots defensive end, has kind of come on strong. He wasn't in that Week 6 game. So I would say that, taking out Kareem Hunt, adding in J.C. Jackson and John Simon might not be a huge advantage for the Patriots, but I'd say that it's at least a decent advantage, especially with the way that Jackson has played over the last half of the season.
I think you have to throw Eric Berry on that list,
sure.
too. He's a guy we don't really know what we're going to see, what kind of Eric Berry we're going to see. He's a guy who's only played 3 games in the last 2 years, only played 2 games since he tore his ruptured his Achilles, against the Patriots in that opener way back in Week 17. But at his peak, he was a guy that's able to kind of neutralize Justin Houston as well. A guy who's able to kind of neutralize Rob Gronkowski one-on-one, really. He's one of the only players in the NFL who can do that. So I'd be interested to see how they use Eric Berry today if he's full strength, whether they stick him on Gronk, whether they stick him on James White. It's definitely going to add kind of another wrinkle to this Chiefs defense that hasn't been great this season.
One of the things I'm interested in seeing is in the event that Berry, and you're talking about Eric Berry, I think he has a very important element to this, because if the Patriots stay in this stuff we've seen, it's called 21 personnel, and too much in the weeds here, but basically 2 backs on the field, only 2 wide receivers, the stuff they were pounding the Chargers with. Typically in situations like that, the strong safety rolls down to run strength. That means to Gronk, and it would make sense if they want to play a man coverage of some sort, then Gronk and Berry match up. You would be happy with that because Gronk's not been highly targeted, so you're taking one of the more dangerous players out of there, or out of potentially the deep end of the field to steal balls. The other part you love about that is that you can run away from the down guy, and Sony Michel's had a lot of great runs cutting back. So what's great about these formations the Patriots doing, it's old school, 90s and 2000 football. They build a strength side, the side that Gronk's on. He's working with Marcus Cannon, he's working with Trent Brown. They just trucked through the Chargers a week ago. But Sony does a really nice job of feeling the tempo and cutting back. So when you start overplaying it, Gronk's on this side, there comes the run side, we'll load up there. They have a good set of backs here who know when to sort of push it that way, get the over commit, and cut it back. The one other thing I will say simply about the who's here, who's not here, I give a big old vote on the Patriots side of the ball to Dietrich Wise and the potential of Ufama Kamala. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Ufama Kamala, he was inactive a week ago. We don't know if he'll be active this week. But the one thing that's unique to this particular contest relative to the Chargers one is the possibility that, quite frankly, as good as the Patriots' regular defense has been, they may not get to play.
Right.
It might just be an entire game of 11 personnel, folks, and that means the 3 wide receivers on the field, potentially a 4th, depends on what you consider Kelsey. And in that situation, Danny Shelton, who I love, I don't know if he's going to get a chance to play. It's really just goal line and short yardage where you get a chance to go against their bigger people. So when I say that, and the reason I bring that up, is that means the longer people become more prevalent. I think more important to have on the field. Your longest guys that can close a pocket, reach out, have the 6'6", 6'7" guys that are also, not your traditional bigger guys. That's Wise, and that's Kamala. I hope I'm saying that right. But those are the 2 unique body types that weren't a part of the Week 6 one. Wise was in a really minor role at that time. So I'm interested to see if those guys get involved.
One last note, too, the Patriots don't have Josh Gordon for this game. They did have Josh Gordon in Week 6, so their offense does look significantly different at this point.
I know I forgot him before, but Justin Houston will play a major role in this game. He had 2 sacks last week. Yeah. you were talking about Breland Speaks and Tano Passanwa playing in his place in Week 6, and he's one of their best pass rushers. Really one of the best pass rushers in all the NFL. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of role he has.
But before you jump on that point, I thought hopefully folks at home may have seen that NFL Films mic'd up segment there with Joey Bosa. Yeah. Joey Bosa won virtually won, but he got free. With it, it didn't matter. So Houston is a damn good rusher. D Ford is a damn good rusher. Chris Jones is a really great rusher. But the concern I think they're going to have is, does it matter? Right. If the ball's out, it doesn't matter. And I think they're going to be more concerned on that side of the ball with stopping the run first. If you run it down the throat, that really slows the rushing out. Ingram, Bosa, not many better than them. Houston and Ford are awful good, but I think the running game really mitigates any conversation we're ever going to have about pass rush.
Brady was getting rid of the ball in 2.13 seconds on average against the Chargers. So if that's happening, then no one's going to get to him that fast. Exactly. Really and every week we talk about all these pass rushers, then they wind up doing nothing, like Ingram and Bosa last week. Let's get into Kareem Hunt and Damian Williams a little bit. Kareem Hunt, obviously he was released. Damian Williams has been about as good on the ground, but he has not been nearly the passing threat. I think he's only averaging 7.5 yards per catch. Kareem Hunt was over 14 yards per catch. Yeah. He had the 67-yard touchdown over Jason McCourty, and he's really always been a big receiving threat going against the Patriots defense. So, I think the Chiefs will probably be able to move the ball on the ground if they're given the opportunity to do that. If they get out to an early lead, I don't think they'll have much trouble running the ball on the Patriots. But that passing game is definitely a big thing that the Patriots don't have to deal with Kareem Hunt in this game.
Yeah, I really do think, though, that the Patriots are going to have to put a concerted effort into stopping the run first, because when you watch the side-to-side movement, and it's tough, they jet motion as good as anyone. The suggestions I'm making here, they're not easy. Clearly, 16 teams have had to try it. But there have been some games where the output was more muted. There's been a handful of teams that kept into the low to mid-20s. That's the best you can expect out of these guys. But usually what it is not getting widened too much by the side-to-side jet motion stuff, and actually keeping the runs to a muted sort of level. Winning on first down. 2nd and 8 is okay. 2nd and 4 is a problem. Right, yeah. 2nd and 4 is a big problem with these guys. Now, the reason I bring that up is because I have a really healthy respect for Williams. I know it's not the name value of Kareem Hunt, and he doesn't have the same average in the passing game, but I really love the quality in that guy of just his fall forwardness. Williams is really good at, if you hit him at 2, he ends up at 4 or 5. He's really good. You hit him at 5, it ends up being 10. And it is, again, in full fairness here to what the Patriots have been really good at and the things they've not dealt with as well. You can think back to the Miami game, some of the Frank Gore stuff out in the open where, man, there was an opportunity to get him down at 2. Right. It ends up being a 9-yard play or a 10-yard play. So the linebackers are going to be really stressed in this game. And you bring up, Doug, the running backs. I think this same point really extends to Kelsey, his catch and run ability. Belichick on his Bellustrator this week really highlighted that point. And also to Hill. Really those three, the threesome of those guys, the tackling in the open field and making sure that they catch it, they go down. That's very important, using your buddy.
Expanding on one of those points that you made in there, the Patriots did a really good job in the first half in Week 6 in setting up the Chiefs in kind of 3rd and long or 3rd and medium situations. It was consistently 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. I think they had a 3rd and 15 in there as well. Yeah. Then you kind of turn the page to the second half, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. And
it's killer.
Obviously, that's kind of a lot of third down defense is kind of decided before third down. And when you're in those easy situations, it's so much easier to extend drives.
Staying on the running game, Chiefs defense was pretty terrible against the run this year. Obviously, some of that is circumstance-based where they were out to early leads and, maybe they're not even caring that much about stopping the run. But it does stress the importance of getting out to an early lead for the Patriots in this game, because if they are able to get out to an early lead, then they'll actually be able to show off their balanced offense and run the ball. And if they get out to an early enough lead, then the Chiefs will have to get away from running the ball. And I think that just overall obviously gives the Patriots a gigantic advantage in this game, because the Patriots have been so good on the run and because the Chiefs' defense has been so porous against the run at times.
Yeah, one of the things, and I know this is a fan thing out there, and it's reasonable and understandable, you have nightmares about Denver, you have nightmares about going on an AFC Championship game, playing in a raucous place, playing in a loud place, and the one big difference that they have today than beyond just the opponent and the venue that we're in, they're walking in with 5 tanks in front of them. They have this stable offensive line to the Patriots that they didn't have at that moment, and it is such a big factor.
They also didn't have the run game in that game. Steven Jackson was their running back.
Exactly. So they have the things you need to weather a place like this. And from experience, this place is tough. Seattle's tough, Pittsburgh's tough, Chicago's tough. These places get loud. It's a hair's different, one louder than the other. But what matters the most in all of them is that they're not standing up and yelling on 3rd and 10, because then they're yelling for sacks. places like this get muted when it's 2nd and 2. They don't know what to yell for. Are we yelling for a sack, or is it going to be another run? A conversion on 2nd and 2 makes people So the run game and the fact that you have a nice little army in front of you, you have stability, and I really think this offensive line can be the key to winning this game. Really control, making this 3 or 4 less possessions than it may be against a different opponent.
Totally agree. And you said you mentioned that they have a healthy offensive line. They have a healthy team right now. No, there's not a single player listed on the Patriots injury report entering this game. That's just the 3rd time that's happened in the last 5 years. Which, I mean, when you go back to those games that you mentioned, the 13 game in Denver, the 15 game in Denver, both of those teams were decimated by injury. They were just
medical ward, yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Patriots also only lost one starter this year in Juwan Bentley. Other than that, I mean, no one really of real matter is on injured reserve for the Patriots.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to come out of this game if you're the Patriots and see, man, maybe they would have won this game if they had Rob Gronkowski, if they had Julian Edelman active, if they had their left tackle active.
But you're talking about Brian Schwanke, and you're talking about Eric Rowe, and guys who probably wouldn't be playing anyway, really.
Yeah, remarkable health this season. That's been a really big key for the Patriots.
I know that you said earlier it doesn't really matter if it's Gilmore or Jackson covering Tyreek Hill, but I mean the Patriots have been shadowing receivers this year, and Stephon Gilmore's been doing a great job of it. He really shut down Sammy Watkins in Week 6. So it does raise the question, who is probably going to be shadowing Tyreek Hill? Personally, I'm rooting for J.C. Jackson just because of some of those things I said earlier about, how he hasn't allowed a touchdown, how he is so good against big plays, and how he against deep throws, and how he has so many interceptions. I don't think you can necessarily go wrong. I know it sounds crazy saying that, but I think that J.C. Jackson, Stephon Gilmore, you're going to have help over the top anyway, but I want to put Jackson on Hill, if only because then that gives you Gilmore on Watkins. Then you don't really have to worry about Watkins at all, because I think that Watkins could have some victories against J.C. Jackson. I can't see him doing that against Gilmore. So if you're going to give help over Hill anyway, you might as well throw Jackson on there rather than Gilmore. It's almost a waste of Gilmore to put him on Hill and then just have help over the top.
Well, one of the things that again, we kind of have to cover what they're seeing for the other side here. There is a stinker on tape from a week ago when Gilmore just bit on something. Right. I don't know what he was seeing, but it looked like he was
got nosy.
It was a double move kind of deal.
Yeah, but I mean, he was reacting to a route on the other side that just wasn't his business. And what that generally does, and again, he's had an All-Pro year. He's been exceptional. But you're going to earn some misdirection. You're going to earn some crazy stuff out of a bunch. A stacked receiver thing where they cross after the line of scrimmage, in part to see if they might bait him into doing something like that again. So I think the bigger thing here for me personally is variety. And the thing is, you can align. Say if you wanted to go JC over Hill every single snap, that's absolutely fine, but don't have him cover every single snap. You can start over the top of him, drop into a zone of some sort. I think the variety of looks is going to be important because you want Mahomes to think he's going to a guy because, hey, that last snap, that's exactly what I got, and then post-snap it changes. So zones, mans, combo coverages, all different. I mean, there's 100 different ways to do it, but I just think really the strength of the Patriots is the depth of their group. If Jason McCourty ends up on him with safety help, I don't mind that either. And Devin McCourty maybe down in the box, and he can run with him, but you don't want him in a solo. He had a touchdown in the game where he had a solo situation on a deep cross. The bigger issue is just never leaving someone alone. Yeah. So I would have a general sense of confidence that any of those guys can do it, provided you don't leave him out there for 60 snaps, wall to wall, all by yourself with no help.
I agree with you. The confusion is going to be a really big key to this game against Patrick Mahomes, and I agree with you that I want to see J.C. Jackson on Tyreek Hill. That's easily the most entertaining matchup in this game. So I hope we do get to see that today.
All right. Well, let's get into our offensive and defensive keys. I hit on my offensive key earlier, so I kind of gave you a spoiler alert there, and that's that Patriots need to get out to a fast start. And the problem here, though, is that if they do win the coin toss, I don't know if you take the ball in that situation because the crowd is going to be juiced up. So you want to defer, like you said, because then, I mean, at halftime, fans are kind of filtering back into the stands. If you get the ball in the second half, it might not be quite as loud as it would be on that first snap of the entire game. So I still think you probably have to defer if you do win the coin toss, but get a quick stop, maybe then get out to the fast start. But regardless, I think that if they get out to a fast start and can really start generating yards on the ground, they're going to win this game.
My offensive key to the game, limit Tyreek Hill as best you can. I mean, he's not a guy that you're going to shut down in this game. He's not going to go kind of catchless or one catch. I don't think so, at least. But you can't let him have the performances that he's had the last two times the Patriots have played against the Chiefs. I mean, last year he was basically invisible in the entire first half, then came out and had 140 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns in the second half. He was really kind of the driver of that second half comeback for Kansas City. So I think you have to do whatever you can to kind of limit him, because we've seen the Patriots have had pretty good good success against Travis Kelce in recent years. So I think the number one kind of offensive weapon for this team is Tyreek Hill. Got to do whatever you can to make him not beat you in this game.
So defensively for me, the one thing I would like you to focus on, but there's the problem when you do this against this kind of offense, there's never like Hill off the board. That Robinson goes and catches an 80-yard pass, or you end up with Watkins with a big play, or William. It's kind of one of those defenses where offenses, where you just really have to make it very difficult for them. I think that's probably the number one key. No free lunch, no situations where they're going the length of the field in one play, and this place gets nuts. Even if they drive 12 plays and score twice on the day, 3 times on the day, that's okay, because your offense is going to score 3 or 4 times on the day as well. I just think that there cannot be the giveaway portion of the game, because that's been the problem with this team, and they've been exceptional when they don't shoot themselves in the foot. You just can't have the giveaways. You make them go the long, hard way. I think the bigger challenge to defend offensively, and again, this is a you won't believe me, but this is a non-Patriots bias point. If I'm talking about the red team and the blue team today, I think the blue team's offense is just as or more dangerous than the red teams relative to the group that's going to be defending them. I think the bigger issue here is don't handicap your own offense by giving away a quick score, because that offense is going to walk down the field on the other side as well.
Another key in this game is just to win the turnover battle. Both these teams actually have been very good at generating takeaways and not giving the ball over. I think the Patriots had a plus 10 turnover ratio. Chiefs had a plus 9 turnover ratio. So Patriots slightly better, but not a big difference there. But if they do win the turnover battle in this game, and for the Patriots, that means not dropping passes. That means not making dumb mistakes. That means not fumbling the ball. I think it was 4 of Tom Brady's interceptions came on dropped passes by the Patriots offense. So those are really the big keys.
Got to keep the penalties down as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
One big thing to touch on too here, and this came up last week. If you follow me on Twitter, I was being snarky about this throughout the day, but Mahomes had the ball in Colt's hands. In Colt's hands, catchable with 2 hands, frames, not just PBUs, 4 and arguably a 5th time in that game. He had a 5 turnover game earlier this season. This is a guy who does want to give it to you, and I think in part his talent is so incredible. He's been so good. He's been so proficient. But one of his little tendencies as a defensive player watching him back is he gets overly confident. They'll walk you down the field. He'll break a pocket, and he starts doing stuff that's a little bit too aggressive. But here's the issue. If the Patriots touch the ball 5 times today on defense and never get away from him, man, those are drives left on the field. So I think it's the AFC Championship game. You want to go to Super Bowl, don't miss opportunities.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into Chatham's choice. This is our betting segment here. Line is Chiefs are favored by 3 points, and it's an over-under of 55 points. So I'll just kick it off here. I'm taking the Patriots. I think they actually win by 3 points, so I like the fact that I'm getting points on that bet there.
Thank you.
I totally agree with you. I'm feeling a 3-point Patriots victory. Maybe it's a little bit of recency bias, just seeing how kind of resounding their victory was over the Chargers last week. But I don't know. I think Patriots win this game in a close one.
Yeah, I have a hard time getting over watching back, last week's game for both of these teams. And both teams were impressive. That's the why they're here. But the Patriots were terrifyingly impressive.
Yeah,
that first half of offense was the best first half you saw in football this year. I mean, I know you can think back to the Rams-Chiefs game, and that was crazy. There were a lot of just blown coverages, nobody touched walking down the field. This was not blown coverages against the Chargers. This was physically walking someone down the field. I want you guys at home to watch this. You're worried about Gronk getting tackles or getting catches? Watch Gronk battle D Ford. Watch Gronk battle Houston. Watch the edge get pressed. And you know why? I'm excited about that. I think they're going to win that matchup decisively. I'm taking the Patriots in the 3. Stay away from the points today with cold weather. I have no idea if this ends up being, a 60-point total or a 40-point total. I think more than anything, we come off looking like a homer team here doing by it. But we have a tape to back us. It looked really good against the Chargers. That Patriots, they're going to give you 3 points. Go ahead and take it.
When was the last time Tom Brady was an underdog in a game?
2014, I believe. Late in the 2014 season. I believe it was in Green Bay. So it's been a very long time. This is the first time they've been a underdog in a playoff game since the 2013 AFC Championship game. So Patriots are playing the underdog card this week, and they are literally underdogs in this game.
They are literally underdogs. And what did Tom Brady say to a staffer this week? I'm a bad mother effer.
Yes.
I think he's feeling himself in this one. And he certainly was feeling himself there last week in the divisional round game. And that's part of the reason why I did take the Patriots in this one. So thank you for tuning in to the pregame chat. Keep it on NESN.com for all of your Patriots coverage.